Episode 25 of the Geekdom101 podcast is part one of the Pulp Fiction retrospective review. Pulp Fiction is my favorite movie of all time and one of the greatest films ever made. And myself and Brandon Draven discuss this movie super duper in depth. We go through every scene. We go through all of the influences behind the movie, the impact of the movie on cinema when it came out. Original air date was August 12, 2019. And remember, this is just part one here in episode 25. Episode 26 is the second half of this discussion. But for now, let's get to episode 25 of the show. And welcome back to the Geekdom101 podcast as we discuss 25 years of Pulp Fiction, my favorite movie of all time. I've been talking about doing this show for like 2 years now, and the time has come to do it. We're going to give you the most in-depth, the most comprehensive analysis that we can possibly provide for you about this movie. The ins and outs, why it was so important, the acting, the soundtrack, what it did for the actors in the movie. There's a lot to talk about here. So this show might end up getting cut into multiple parts. Just letting you all know that. It'll probably be a two-part episode because there's so much that we're going to pack in here in this episode. And joining me to discuss this, please welcome back to the Geekdom101 podcast. He was here for our last episode, the history of Tarantino. And in that episode, we teased this episode. So we're following it up now. A full analysis on Pulp Fiction. We talk about it a little bit there as well. Please welcome back Brandon Draven.
I just had me a $5 milkshake. They didn't put any rum in it.
You didn't put bourbon in it, did you? That's milk.
That line always pops you, bro. It always works.
Wait. That's $5. That's milk and ice cream. You don't put bourbon in it? No. God damn, that's a fucking good milkshake. I don't know if it's worth $5, but it's pretty fucking good.
Hopefully some of our listeners could relate if they've ever been on dates and they get hit with that kind of news, brother, with those nowadays it would be a $10 milkshake, which is goddamn ridiculous if you ask me, without no bourbon in it.
Jack Rabbit Slims would be like $15 for a burger, bro, if we went nowadays. That's right. But we gotta go because you don't want to be square. So yeah, we're talking about Pulp Fiction here. My favorite movie of all time. You stated in the past that it's your favorite movie of all time. For me, it was always a tie between this and like Shawshank. And
we could go on we could do another show on Shawshank,
which also came out in 94. And that's the thing. 94 was such a huge year for our generation. A lot of important things that shaped who I would become came out in 94. Pulp Fiction, Power Rangers, a lot of classic music was also in 94. We had the influx of grunge. Hip-hop was starting to get really, really sweet around this time with more advanced lyricism. Like, pretty much all the things I got into, a lot of, not everything, but a lot of them was in 94. And, of course, my favorite wrestler, Bret Hart, wins WrestleMania 10 in 94. And that was awesome. So we have so many memories of 94. But 25 years later, and here we are talking about Pulp Fiction, the greatest Quentin Tarantino movie of all time. It's almost like Chasing Amy for Kevin Smith, bro. He's never been able to break that curse, you know.
Well, that one's a little more, he's got. I think Clerks is a lot of people's favorites. Chasing Amy is our favorite because it's the more a true to life film.
And the Clerks is 94.
Yeah, it is. You're right. I think it's 93, but I hear you.
I'm pretty sure it was 94, but you know what else came out in 94? Hoop Dreams. Another great documentary. Legendary documentary.
And Forrest Gump.
Yeah, but I'm mad at that movie because that was a great film, but it's not as good as this one. This should have won the Academy Award for Best Picture because it was the best movie of the year.
Well, Shawshank also got nominated that year, right?
Yes, that was a great year for movies, and Forrest Gump won.
So it was that year was 4 Weddings and a Funeral, which is whatever, it's okay. Pulp Fiction,
yeah.
The Quiz Show, which I thought was a great movie.
I like Quiz Show, yes.
And then the Shawshank Redemption, and then Forrest Gump, which Forrest Gump took it.
Yeah, and I like Forrest Gump. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but Tom Hanks is a cheat code to getting an Oscar, bro, as you know. So where do we start with this movie? I mean, I guess we can start about going back and talking about Tarantino. Reservoir Dogs had come out in 92, and then he was already, I believe he finished writing True Romance prior.
No, he had already sold True Romance to fund Reservoir Dogs. He sold both of them, Natural Born Killers and True Romance, to fund Reservoir Dogs, which got it funded. We talked about that during our Tarantino retrospective. Harvey Keitel found the script, thanks to Lawrence Bender. and he ended up funding the rest of it. And at that point, Tarantino had carte blanche to do any other film he wanted because Reservoir Dogs became, it wasn't a big hit because it didn't get that kind of distribution, but it was enough of a hit to where Tarantino got funded because at this point he had connected himself to Harvey Weinstein, and no pun intended there. So they went into business together, and he said, okay, do the film that you want. Now, at this point, Quentin Tarantino was hooked up with a guy known as Roger Avery, which was another director, filmmaker, brilliant guy, completely out of his mind.
Yeah, and supposedly there were scenes that were supposed to be in True Romance that wound up in Pulp Fiction.
Yes, they were, and there was characters. I mean, we've talked about this. Tarantino had the Tarantino universe before it became a thing, right? There's so many characters that come in and out that are related to each other or know of each other. And we haven't had no Tony Rocky Horror showed up yet, unfortunately, but hopefully we will one day. And so what ended up happening was that
he should have been at Hobbs and Shaw when The Rock goes back to Samoa.
What ended up happening was that as things tend to happen with these relationships, Roger Avery and Quentin had a disagreement. There was controversy over who wrote the majority of Pulp Fiction, and Roger Avery decided to go to the Academy for that. And they both ended up getting Oscars for Best Screenplay for '95 for that year. So the Academy ended up giving both of them Oscars instead of just giving one to Quentin, and so that was kind of cool. But from there, the relationship kind of split. Roger Avery did a couple of great films. Like he did a film called Killing Zoe. It's a heist film. That's awesome. It's a great film. So if people haven't watched it, to check it out. It's kind of a French noir kind of movie, which is pretty cool. He also did a movie that has a big cult following called The Rules of Attraction.
Huge movie. That's actually a pretty big movie. Yeah.
Yeah, which is based on a book by another wacky guy called Bret Easter Ellis, who's kind of another weird guy. But then Roger Avery kind of imploded. He got in trouble with the law. He went to prison for a little while. But his legacy will always be that he's one of the co-writers of Pulp Fiction, one of the greatest films ever made.
And actually, I think Avery directed a movie last year called Lucky Day, which I've never seen.
Yes, I saw it, and it wasn't that good.
Yeah, so who's the real mastermind behind this movie, bro? Because Tarantino's always been a great writer, but this movie's like a step above everything else, to be honest with you.
Well, we know for a fact that Roger Avery wrote The Gold Watch. That was his segment. So, right. but he also contributed to a lot of the dialogue sprinkled throughout the film. And as far as the plot structure, I believe that was most of it was Tarantino. Because what happened was that Tarantino, once the success of Reservoir Dogs came in, he went to Amsterdam as a shoot, and then he wrote this film. And then when he brought it back, Roger Avery kind of polished some of the dialogue and the script and all that, so they're credited both as being the writers. But what tells you that it was mostly Tarantino was that after they broke off, look who had the better career, and look who kept a lot of the motifs of Pulp Fiction. It wasn't Roger Avery, who's also a good filmmaker, but he has his own style, which is more like linear and stuff. So yeah. Tarantino was the one that kept the structure of this film going forward, and a lot of the character stuff. And so I feel like it was Tarantino the one that carried most of the load in this film.
And also,
and at the end of the day, he was the director, so it's really his vision.
Yeah, for sure. I remember reading that TriStar was originally, they shopped the script to TriStar, and TriStar said it was too controversial, too violent, or whatever. Like, that's kind of funny to me. One thing I gotta say about Harvey Weinstein is, you know, for all the flaws that he's gotten, and rightfully so, it's too bad. It's like the Chris Benoit thing. Like, he had a really good career. He had some great movies that he was supervising, and it's kind of a shame about what happened. But he's a scumbag, but I mean, still.
But he was also known as Mr. Edward Scissorhands, because what he would do is that he would buy all these films from like independent filmmakers, and then he would own the rights, and then he would chop them all up. He would cut them because he felt like he knew how to make them a better movie, and he would release a lot of these films cut. And he would actually buy a lot of international films. Like, I think he was the first one that released like Princess Mononoke. I think Miramax released it here in the States.
Mononoke.
I'm sorry, Princess Mononoke. and he released it here in the States.
You're gonna lose credibility with the anime nerds now, bro.
Oh, well, shit me all to hell then. Let me go ahead and take my sleeping pills because I won't be able to sleep tonight. So anyways, so Harvey Weinstein was known as the guy that would edit your shit to pieces and then throw it out there, and then people wouldn't like it, and he wouldn't take the blame for it. The director would take the blame for it, but he was like, man, my film got cut up. He did that time after time with a lot of films, and you know, his scissor hands were not only busy cutting up films, they were also busy with women. If you hear the stories of him and what a scumbag he was over the years, so
absolute power corrupts absolutely, right?
So this film, it really got traction in the festival circuit, as a lot of these films tend to do. We talked about it in the previous episode.
It won the 1984 Palme d'Or, which was a big deal back then.
Right. So it's still a big deal now.
No, it's still a big deal. Yeah, it's still a big deal. And the Cannes Film Festival, that's still going on.
It created a lot of buzz. And then when they released it to the national box office, it made a shitload of money. It made like $150 million, not in its opening weekend, but within the first 2 months of release. And then in total, it's made $213 million. Which, think about this: $8 million budget, $213 million revenue. That's a $200 million profit, not taking into consideration advertising expenses and all that. So you figure, like, Tarantino let's say he got 30% of that. That's why this man could fund movie theaters and play whatever the fuck he wants and not worry about that movie theater losing money, because the guy is loaded, and in particular because of this film.
Yeah, and he kept making successful movies. I mean, he's never really made a flop, like an actual financial flop. To my knowledge, he's never made one. Now, as we get into this movie, I want to talk about the pulp magazines that these are based off of, because I think a lot of people don't really understand what these pulp magazines were. And to be honest, a lot of them existed before you and I were even around. This was like a thing from Tarantino's childhood that he would sort of turn into this whole thing, I guess you can say.
Right. Well, a lot of them were like based on film noir. They had these characters who had this structure of like exactly what the movie is. You had these characters who would be together in the novel, but they wouldn't ever really actually interact with each other. So you had all these stories that were going on that were based on fantasy. And that's one of the things that Tarantino has always said. He does fantasy movies. So all these people that are like shitting on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and like Inglourious Bastards for not being,
they change history basically.
Right, but his whole thing is it's a fantasy.
Yes.
And
he's often talked about how movie violence is not the same as, and we had that discussion before we started recording about the whole video game thing. Like, he's always been very adamant that movie violence is not the same as real violence.
Right. And his whole idea is that this is escapist entertainment, and you really go there to lose yourself in the picture. And one of the ways to do that is to create these films that not only give you captivating characters, which is what he really became good at, but also give you this sense of uncertainty and also this weird, like, they throw you off mentally because of the structure they're filmed in and because of the visuals that he presents to you. A lot of these scenes would give you what we call like brain fucks, like things that don't really go hand in hand together, but they're there and you're watching them and you're like you're so intrigued by them. Combined with the idea that you already like the characters, it makes for a great emotional and visual experience. I'll give you an example. The scene with Butch, like, how do you go from like him trying to get away from Marcellus to them ending up in a situation where you got two guys, one of a dirty cop butt fucking Marcellus? Like, how do you go from point A to point B and still make it make sense? It's kind of wacky, and again, it's a brain fuck. It's like so you create these scenarios where your brain automatically is out of the norm and it gets thrown off, and it's supposed to give you a good visual and emotional experience. So that's really what he's really good at.
When he started working on this movie, he brought back a lot of the people from Reservoir Dogs. The cinematographer came back. Sally Menke edited the movie. Of course, we credited her last time. David Weisko, the production designer, like pretty much the same clique kind of came back to help him out with this movie. One guy.
Hold on.
Yeah?
I was going to say, except one guy that he had heat with for years because he turned them down, and that's one Michael Madsen.
Yeah.
Because Michael Madsen,
they're cool now, though.
Yeah, they're cool now. They're real cool. They're real good friends. But Michael Madsen, he wanted Vincent Vega to be played by Michael Madsen.
Vic Vega. It would have been Vic Vega, right?
No, Vic Vega was Vic Vega, but he was going to be Vincent Vega.
Oh, he wanted to be both? Interesting.
Yeah, because this was before he thought about the brother thing.
I see.
So at this point, what happened was that Reservoir Dogs not only blew Tarantino up, it also blew the actors, because everybody in that movie was a relatively unknown.
Yeah.
And
well, except for Harvey Keitel.
Yeah, except for Harvey Keitel, who was a legend at that point. In particular, Steve Buscemi and Michael Madsen, both of them blew up huge. They really got their careers out of. Yeah, but Tim Roth kind of started. He kind of stayed in England for a while. He did a lot of movies over there. He did a couple
Rob
here.
Roy with Liam Neeson during that time, and that was a pretty.
That's right.
Yeah.
But Michael Madsen was really in demand, and at this point, I think he was filming Donnie Brasco, where he plays one of the mobsters. So he couldn't do this movie, and I don't know how it went about, but there was a disagreement there, and then there was a lot of heat there for it. That's why Michael Madsen disappears from the filmography of Tarantino for a couple years, and then he comes back in Kill Bill, and they kind of squash their beef.
Right. Also, when Travolta got brought in, it was interesting because I remember there was a discussion that Tarantino had where Travolta thought that he wrote the scene of him and Uma Thurman dancing just to see Travolta dance. He's like, "Oh, you're bringing back what he was famous for in the '70s." You know, because for those who don't know, John Travolta had a couple of huge movies in the 70s that were all about disco. Saturday Night Fever. What was the other one besides Saturday Night Fever?
Staying Alive.
Yeah, Staying Alive. So they were huge. But
they're directed by our boy Sly Stallone, bro.
Yes, that's right. But what happened with him is his career during this time, before this movie came out, was in the proverbial toilet. I mean,
it was bad. It was bad.
He was done.
So we're not gonna we because we have a lot of our listeners, our younger listeners. We can't do justice to how important and how big John Travolta was in the 70s.
We weren't even around back then. We just heard.
That's right. We just heard. But he also was big around in the 80s when I was a little kid, and I kind of understood where he was going. But in the 70s, he had Saturday Night Fever, which was a huge hit.
Yeah, massive.
At the same time, he was a television star with Welcome Back, Kotter.
That's right.
So this motherfucker was double dipping, which is rare even nowadays, where you have a guy that's a huge television star and then a huge film star at the same time. I think George Clooney is the only one that's really done that with ER and other the hit films.
Yeah, nowadays people go from TV to movies, but sometimes they go back to TV because TV is pretty big now as well. You know.
Yeah, but actually, like for example, like Bryan Cranston.
Don't forget Urban Cowboy, bro.
Yeah, he was also an Urban Cowboy. Like Bryan Cranston, he was in Malcolm in the Middle as the dad, and then he went over to Breaking Bad, and then that catapulted him to having a successful film career. But he wasn't doing both of them at the same time. Maybe towards the end with Breaking Bad, as they were filming the last season, he was started blowing up as a film actor. But before that, he was always TV first, and then he went to movies. And that's really, like you said, that's really what you see. It's rare that you have a guy in his peak years doing both, and John Travolta was doing both, which is pretty incredible. And he was one of those. He was a heartthrob. You know, he had women all over him. He was the guy.
But did he like the women? That's been the question for many years. You know, which we won't. But here's the funny thing about Travolta too is, you know, what happened with him is he had a really good run. Like he had with Urban Cowboy, Blowout, which is a great freaking Brian.
That's a great movie.
That's a great movie. Brian De Palma's classic prior to Scarface, Staying Alive, and then he for a while he had a couple movies. Then he put out Look Who's Talking, which was a hit, but it wasn't. It was like It was a very disrespected clown show of a movie, is what it was. That's the way.
Yes, it was.
It was a clown show, yeah. And then he did the sequels, and I think those movies hurt his career. And then he came back with Pulp Fiction, and then Get Shorty right after.
Well, he had a lot of bombs, is what happened. He had when he did The Experts and Look Who's Talking, and both Look Who's Talking became like a kind of a cult movie later on, but in the beginning it wasn't considered a well-received movie. And The Expert was supposed to be a big hit, and that ended up being a big flop. And then he did, I think,
Shout.
Eyes of an Angel. Oh, okay.
Eyes of an Angel was after Shout, yeah.
So he had a lot of big flops. So the guy was on the downturn. He just wasn't getting a break. You know who he reminds me of now? He reminds me kind of like Chris Pratt, because Chris Pratt had the same deal. Like, this guy blew up huge, not as big as John Travolta, but he was pretty big. And actually, he's another guy who for a while had both, because he had Parks and Rec,
right,
and he was also a big TV star. But again, not nowhere near the level. Travolta was like an institution for a while in America. It was a different time.
No, it was. Yeah, he was a big deal.
Yeah, and so Chris Pratt was in the same boat when he had all those hits, but he started making flop after flop, like Passengers, and
and then later on he came out with White Man's Burden, Michael, and Phenomenon, which I think were all pretty good movies.
Well, that was after
after Pulp Fiction, yeah, because of Pulp Fiction. Broken Arrow was pretty good. Face Off I love that movie.
And then his career went to shit again. So he went up, down, and back down again.
What was the movie that put his career to shit again, bro? Battlefield Earth.
Battlefield Earth.
Yeah, the Scientology movie.
Right, it destroyed his career and it destroyed Barry Pepper's career, unfortunately.
Although
Peppers? He did pop up in Craw. Yeah, so
now as far as the other lead, Sam Jackson, he had Sam Jackson was already doing big movies before Pulp Fiction. Like, he did Do the Right Thing. I think what was the other one? Juice came out before then. But this is the movie that kind of made Sam Jackson a caricature, because
this is what made him a national star.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is Sam Jackson always plays these tough guys who have weapons and guns.
Remember, bro, he was in one of our favorites that we just popped off air, Menace to Society.
Yes, that's right, bro. That's right. What you mean I better pay or else? I just spent 5 years in the joint. Better suck my dick. Suck on this. Curd. So,
and that's it. We don't see him again.
No, we don't. He died. But so he was already doing movies, but this is the movie that kind of made him like movies like Shaft and even the MCU. He plays this really hard, tough, loud guy. I want some snakes on the plane, motherfucker. This was the movie that really made him into what Sam Jackson would become. Because right before this movie, he did Ghost Rider, the PBS show, and he's sitting there like playing this wholesome dad for the first 2 arcs or whatever. And I remember when I went back and I watched that, I was watching with my friends and I was like, my son talks to ghosts, motherfucker! And they all popped because that's who fucking Sam Jackson became. And it was really because of this movie.
Yeah, before this, he was one of those guys that was just struggling.
He's a character actor.
Yeah, but little roles. He was also in Goodfellas, one of my third favorite movie of all time. He was one of the thieves that gets killed by
I thought you
Jimmy.
told me Halloween was your third favorite movie of all time.
No, it's Pulp Fiction, then Halloween, then is Goodfellas. Oh, okay. I love fucking Goodfellas. I can watch it over and over.
I thought it was Pulp Fiction, Dark Phoenix, and okay, gotcha.
Come on, you're gonna run that fucking joke to the ground?
I am, bro.
At least I didn't give it 5 stars like somebody else.
It got over like crotch rot. We'll run that one to the ground too. And no, he gave 5 stars to Days of Future Past.
Now, here's an interesting scenario for you as far as Sam Jackson and the relationship with Tarantino. So, originally, Sam Jackson was a Spike Lee guy. Spike Lee would put him in all his movies.
Yes, he was.
And now, what happened with Spike Lee is that he cut a lot of promos, to use a wrestling term, on Tarantino. They don't like each other because Spike Lee feels that Tarantino exploits the African-American community, especially using the N-word.
Yeah, a lot of people feel that.
And they've had a feud for years. And a lot of people say it's based on Spike Lee being jealous because Spike Lee never really had kind of like the definitive black film, even though he did a lot of them.
He's tried though, hasn't he? Oh boy.
So it's interesting that there was a point where Spike Lee was going around calling Tarantino racist, this and that, and Sam Jackson took Tarantino's side. But he was always a Spike Lee guy because Spike Lee would always hook him up with roles. So it's interesting that Samuel L. Jackson had to make a choice, and he went with
him, bro. He took off his shirt and it said Pulp Fiction on it. He got game shirt, and he
tried to rip it off and failed, like Shawn Michaels did with Mike Tyson. Remember, he couldn't take it off for a while.
That's right.
He had to really yank it.
Yeah, he had to pull it. So Uma Thurman, again, another actress that had a decent career. This movie blew her up. Now, Bruce Willis and Chris Walken, though, they already were established stars. Bruce Willis during this time was still like riding that Die Hard wave. Still.
Kind of, but he was almost in the John Travolta situation as well. He had done the Die Hard thing. Then I think he did that movie with one of the Wayans brothers, The Last Boy Scout.
Well, I like that movie.
But what happened with him is that he did Hudson Hawk, which was a huge flop, and it was supposed to be one of those like summer.
Wasn't he in Bonfire of the Vanities too?
Yeah, he was, but that was a lesser movie.
Yeah, but it was a flop also, if I remember.
And he was the voice of the baby in Looks Who's Talking, so there was that connection to Travolta.
Oh boy, that's true.
So after The Last Boy Scout, which that's actually became also a cult film. It's a pretty good movie. He ended up doing like 4 flops in a row, dude. There's this horrible film called The Color of Night that's just fucking horrible. And
what about Death Becomes Her, bro? Did you like that one?
Not really. I've seen it a bunch of times. It's alright, but that was also a big flop.
Bobby Zemeckis, bro.
So this is another guy that needed a break. And again, the reason why Tarantino does this is because he's really into that retro. He loves those actors that again, it goes back to what we're talking about in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He loves to rescue these actors that are like washed up. That's his thing. He's done it in all his films. He did it in Jackie Brown. He's done it in Django. He's done it time and time again.
But we love those guys, bro.
Oh yeah, of course. So here he did it with Bruce Willis. He did it with John Travolta.
I can't wait for Clancy Brown to do a movie with Tarantino, bro. Please, bro, put him in Star Trek.
Yeah, but but he's also Clancy Brown is a character actor. He's kind of
that's exactly why he should be in these movies.
Yeah, that is
true. You sold me even more.
Yeah, Uma Thurman was a model. She was kind of a model, kind of making the wave. She had done a couple films. She did like Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, which was kind of a popular movie, and she had done a movie called Henry and June.
Was Quentin fucking her during this time?
That I don't know, bro.
We saw her feet a few times in this movie, but yeah.
Cause Quentin was fucking Mira Sorvino for a while, which good for him, I guess.
Not your friend Palooka.
So Henry and June was a very controversial movie, which was Uma Thurman was in it, because it was a film that was distributed theatrically, but because of its content, and the director's refusal to cut it, it had an NC-17 rating, and we wouldn't see that till Showgirls back in '95.
That's right. Showgirls was the first movie that got a major release that was NC-17 that I remember.
No, Henry and June was.
That's what I said that I remember. Yeah.
So
because that was before my time.
So it's weird because you're releasing a movie that nobody's gonna be able to see by the very nature that it's NC-17.
Yeah.
You know, so what NC-17 means, that's the difference between rated R and NC-17 is that rated R, you could watch it if you're accompanied by an adult. So you could be a baby NC-17, absolutely no one under 17 is allowed in.
You had to show ID.
Yeah, bro, but if you're under 17, what does it matter? What do you mean you had to show ID? Yeah, I mean...
Well, that's what I'm saying. You had to show ID to see the... But of course, let's be real. Most movie theaters didn't give a shit. Let's be real about it. They didn't care.
The ones in the hood didn't, but I'm sure the ones in the suburban areas were very strict.
Of course, bro. The ones in Jimmy Dimmick's neighborhood is what you're referring to.
So Pulp Fiction gave her a big career because after that she did Batman and Robin,
and she was on the cover of the movie, the poster and the DVD and the VHS, whatever, and she wasn't even the main character. I love that.
And think about that poster, which is a poster that I'm looking at right now because I have it in my living room.
It's a classic.
That's gonna be one of the most classic posters of all time in cinema, bro. It has to.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Well, Reservoir Dogs too. He's got some good ones.
Yeah, but Pulp Fiction is above everything because that one has been distributed around the world, and it's a poster that everybody recognizes.
And not just that, she doesn't even wear that outfit in the movie.
No, she doesn't, bro. I found out you noticed that one.
She never wears that. I always notice that. She never wears that in the movie. And, like, she has a gun. There's a lot of little things in there, like the hand and everything, the gun, like... And she's reading the Pulp Fiction magazine, which I love. Like, how many people actually picked up on that? That this is all, the whole 10-cent thing, this is supposed to be a parody of a magazine cover.
Well, those flip novels, from back in the day.
Yeah, that's what inspired this movie. These like pulp magazines, which are pretty much like they're like comic books, except they weren't. Like, did you ever read any of those? I've never read one before.
They were a little after our time.
Before our time, you mean?
I'm sorry, before our time.
Way before.
But not by much. No, you say wait. I don't, because when I was a kid, and again, this is going to be foreign to any of the younger listeners. The thing to do was to go to the newsstands. Now, back in the day, kids, there was newsstands in every corner. Now, a newsstand was a place that carried magazines
and newspapers, of course,
and newspapers. And you would go there.
That's where you got your after mags, right?
That's right, brother. I would go there.
Learn about Mid-Southern.
No, brother, but then you would also go a little bit to the right, and then the nudie magazines would also be
Yeah, but they'd be covered with like a plastic. You have to go up to the counter and he'll remove the plastic.
Now, I remember when I was a kid, I was probably about 15 years old, had my first job, I think it was my second job ever, and I would take the bus to work. That's right, folks. At 15 years old, I was riding the bus on my own to work in the big city. And every morning, I would have to wait for the bus by a newsstand. And I remember as a kid, because we didn't have the internet, so I needed something else to stimulate my hormonal changes. And I would start looking at the Playboy magazines, right? And the newsstand guy would look at me. He's like, "You could buy it if you want. I'll let you buy it, man." It was like an Indian guy,
of course,
from India,
of course.
And I go, okay. I was so happy. I gave him my $2-3, and he's like, do you want a bag? I'll give you a bag for this. And I'm thinking, why would he give me a bag? But what he was doing was he was protecting it against my mom seeing it or whatever. And I'll be honest with you, bro. When my mom finally found it under my bed, I was a little bit embarrassed.
Of course you were. Now, if your dad had found it, he would have been proud of you. We know that, bro.
Of course. But I remember I had it underneath my bed. And then one day I got home from school, and it was moved into one of my drawers, bro. And I'm like, fuck! That was so
something
embarrassing.
Very similar happened to me.
And I was like, God damn, she found it. And you know how it goes with moms. It's something you never bring up, but it happened, so you just move on.
You never bring it up. No, I agree with you, bro. I agree with you. It's something similar happened to me. I'm not going to get into the entire story, but for me, it was tapes. I found my dad's porn stash, bro. And I remember the movies, too, bro. Bobby's Bubble Butt. That was the name of the movie, bro. My dad... I'm not even kidding, bro. My dad hid them behind the VCR. He went in one of those old like lunch bags, like the little, the paper bags, bro. The brown paper bags or the white paper sack, like Dr. Decent, bro. A wet paper sack, I believe, was they call it Vancouver, BC. So the brown bag, and I remember I went in there and there was like two of these Bobby's Bubble Butt tapes. They were my dad's, bro. And what I didn't understand is why would my dad hide those behind the VCR? Like, I don't know if he was watching the porn with my mom or, like, she didn't even know about it. Because my mom would stay at home all day and clean. So, obviously, she found the tapes at some point. Maybe she thought they were mine. I don't know. That's a big mystery, bro, that to this day I don't understand.
It's like what's in the suitcase, right? We'll never know.
We're going to talk about that here shortly. Do you want to get into the narrative structure of the film? I mean, as far as other actors go, Keitel we've talked about already, and Roth. Amanda...
What about our boy Eric Stoltz, bro? The original Marty McFly.
That's right, bro. He has so much charisma oozing from every pore in this movie, bro. He's also Mask, bro. Even though you and I both know a guy in real life who looks like Mask even more, but we're gonna keep now. Ving Rhames, another one. The only movies I saw this guy in when I was younger was Striptease and this movie. I had to go and find other movies like Jacob's Ladder.
He was a newbie. He was a character actor, kind of making the rounds, but he also blew up. The thing about this film is that everybody that had any significant role fucking blew the fuck up.
Yeah,
everybody.
They all got a lot of roles. Yeah, because even before Pulp Fiction, he did Casualties of War and other films. I mentioned Jacob's Ladder, but yeah, Pulp Fiction was a different level, bro.
Right. So
just don't forget his line in Striptease, bro, where he puts the cockroach in the milkshake. Senor Cucaracha is gonna get me a lot of money.
He was also in one of the most alpha movies of all time, Con Air, bro.
Of course, and so was Buscemi.
Diamond Dog. So was Danny Trejo.
That's right, bro. And then who else are we missing? Rosanna Arquette didn't really do much. And as far as Amanda Plummer goes, she was in. Now, do you remember Amanda Plummer's awesome? Okay, she was in Fisher King, obviously, but do you remember that? And The Hunger Games. Do you remember that awesome episode of Outer Limits with Amanda Plummer as the main character?
Vaguely, tell me about it.
It was amazing. It was really good. They should make it into a movie. It was about this lady who invented time travel, and she would go back in time and kill rapists because her sister got raped and murdered. So she would go back in time and kill rapists. And the whole story is that she was a vigilante, so this cop would chase after her. This is a great episode. This is an amazing episode.
Honey, we got a vigilante here. Shoot him in the face.
Should have been right. Ain't that a B, bro? That's a line from there. But I love how I'm not gonna spoil the ending because it has a really great.
Execute him.
Yeah.
give him the damn wallet. Shut the fuck up, fat man. Bro, we're gonna get into it. So good. Look, this is the thing. This is such an awesome movie. We're gonna be marking out, folks. I'm sorry.
We're gonna get there in a minute. But I just want to talk about.
There isn't one scene in this movie that doesn't have anything classic about it, bro. Literally, every scene has a quotable fucking line in this movie. Every single fucking scene.
It's one of the only films where every piece of dialogue matters. There's no wasted motion or nothing. And the thing that's crazy about the movie is that he was able to find actors with enough charisma to pull it off. Because usually when you have movies like this that are well written, you might have one or two actors that might not really be able to deliver the lines properly. But it was like he struck oil with this fucking movie, bro. It's very rare.
Even our boy Paul Calderone, bro, had a classic line. My name's Paul, and I ain't seen shit.
That's it, bro. Even our boy fucking from SNL, bro, who got his head blown off. Even he had a classic. Marvin, bro. But anyways, what was I gonna tell you? So anyways, go check out that episode of Outer Limits. I forget the name of it. Just look up Amanda Plummer Outer Limits episode. It's really, really good, and it has a great ending that I'm not gonna spoil.
Right. What a great movie this is. So.
All right. Now, before we get into the story, you want to talk about the narrative structure?
Yeah. So, because Quentin Tarantino has always said that he writes his movies like a book. He wants people to imagine reading a book rather than seeing a movie with 3 acts. And so it is true because every time you watch his movies, they're cut in vignettes. Like his movies are very vignette driven. And
even the other ones like Kill Bill and even Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is like that.
Yeah, it's like you have a big block. So a vignette would be like you have a big block with like 2 or 3 actors at most, and then the other actors completely disappear.
Yep. And
so you could even say it's more of a stage play. Like his films are very much like a stage play. And so in this particular situation, he decided to move the narrative around because it would give you more of that brain fuck I talked about earlier. Because there's a lot of scenes that you see here, specifically when Vic and Jules, when they walk into the bar and they're wearing those fucking wacky ass clothes, like you're thinking, automatically your brain's thinking, what happened? Why are they dressed like that? And
you don't find out till the very, very end. Same thing with right from the beginning. We have the scene with Honey Bunny in the diner, the prologue, and we don't even see the finale of that scene, the end of that scene, until the end of the movie at all.
And you're wondering, what is the point of this? What's going on here? And it pays off at the very end. Although you do see Vincent walk real fast if you keep your eyes peeled.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah, Vincent is, but you can't tell the first time you watch the movie at all.
And you don't even know who he is. You haven't been introduced to the character.
Yeah, it's just a little Easter egg. But I mean, that's the thing about the movie is I can understand people being confused the first time they watch it. The second time though, it's not so confusing. Like it's not like Inception where you're like confused and you're supposed to be confused. I don't think he's trying to purposely confuse you. I think the reason as to why he structured it this way is because if the movie had been in chronological order, the ending may not have been bookended the same way, and it may not have been as satisfactory because the end of this movie is actually the middle of the story, but it resolves Jules' character.
Yes.
And that's kind of like the first... I don't know if he's really the main character of this. There are like 3 different main characters, but it resolves his character, but it also kind of sets up the middle with Travolta's. It's I don't know if I'm making sense here, but he structured it this way for those reasons, but there has to be another reason why. What was the other reason as to why he structured it like this?
No, that's pretty much it. And because that's how he wanted to tell the story. There really is no reason. There's been other films like that, like other smaller films.
A lot, yeah.
That, and now after this, because this created a new genre. Let me repeat that for you, folks.
Yeah, explain that, please.
It created a new genre of film, all right? And that's why this film is very, very important. It created that indie-driven, low-budget film with all these A-list actors who wanted to come on board and have these wacky characters with about 4 or 5 different plot lines, all fucking told out of order. And it's known as the Pulp Fiction ripoffs. And there's last time I did this show,
name some of them, please.
There's a movie called The Big Hit with Marky Mark.
That's
there's
a great movie.
There's a movie called 2 Days in the Valley with the guy that played fucking the lead heel in Avengers 2. What was his name?
Ultron?
Ultron, yeah.
Oh, James Spader.
James Spader, yeah.
I'll give you one. Do you remember the Boondock Saints? Isn't that that reminds me?
That's
a lot
right.
of
The Boondock Saints.
That's
Lock,
a great example. And Two Smoking Barrels.
Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, which came out in '96. So I don't want anybody saying, "Oh, that was at the same time." No, it was 2 years later with Guy Ritchie.
Mm-hmm.
Now that one, now that one's crazy because that one brought the British humor into mainstream. So that one's. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is also a very influential film because that one combined not only the structure that Pulp Fiction was telling, but also that humor that the British are that very quick humor that the British are very good at, and it introduced us to Jason Statham. That's where he kind of blew up.
That was his big movie. Yep.
And then Snatch did it later on with Guy Ritchie as well, and Brad Pitt.
There's another movie.
I love that.
There's another movie called Suicide Kings. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yes, I have. That's another one.
Christopher Walken's in it. Yeah.
So all these films owe a big debt to Pulp Fiction because when Pulp Fiction blew up, everybody wanted to make a movie like this, and then we had its own genre, kind of like, I guess you could kind of like right now we have the comic book genre or the superhero genre where they're making the movies about superheroes because they draw money. Well, this guy created his own genre, and that's really what it was. And I think last time I looked it up, there was like 20 ripoffs of this structure here and this kind of narrative, and none of them worked because some
of them were good movies though.
They were good movies, but they weren't classics because they were missing that important ingredient known as Quentin Tarantino directing and understanding that at the end of the day, it's the characters. The characters are the ones that are going to give you the classic moments.
Now, how do you feel about like maybe Sin City? Do you think that was inspired by this movie? Because I feel like it was.
Well, that was Bob Rodriguez, and he was part of this big explosion. So he
was with them. Yeah. They're boys.
So yeah, like I said at the last show, this is all part of a bigger picture, which was that independent film movement that was anchored by Harvey Weinstein, kind of giving these guys the outlet to bring out all their movies. And
Miramax.
This was essentially because everybody says New Hollywood is always the late 70s guys, right? They got dubbed the New Hollywood. Well, this was the new Hollywood that introduced us to the next class of guys that would go on and lead the industry with all their films, like even like Steve Soderbergh and like, you know, we talked last time about Kevin Smith, and even like Peter Jackson came out of this era as well. And so all these filmmakers. Now, what separated these guys from like the Steven Spielberg, George Lucas guys was that these guys were hustlers, bro. They did a lot of the shit themselves. They kind of funded their own movies, and so that this was the new era. This was where things changed, and also this was the era where Hollywood was more accepting of narrative structures that were not part of the Hollywood system, like Pulp Fiction, like El Mariachi, like Clerks, you know, where it was they had lower budgets, but they were pushed as big movies, and you know this film studios just kind of raked in the money. Miramax especially, because they had all these films under contract.
Miramax was a big deal. So I mean, have you ever tried to watch this movie in order, in chronological order? Because I have, and it's like I usually start with, you know.
It ends with Butch, right? That's where it officially ends.
It ends with Butch, but it begins with Jules and Vincent in the car. That's the actual like beginning of the story, and then it goes on from there. So
right,
yeah, because I think there's probably an edit out there somewhere. I've actually never seen it in order, but I don't really need to,
because that's not the way. I don't think that's not the way it was made. So I'm not gonna watch it in order. Because you're gonna lose something if you see it like that.
It's true, and another movie that has that, again, let's be real, another copycat movie, one of my favorites, Memento. Because if Tarantino had not done this narrative structure, Memento may have never gotten the love that it got, because Memento also broke that narrative structure. Now with that film though, I did watch that movie in order, and it's still good, but nowhere close to being as good because the mystery aspect is gone. With Pulp Fiction, there is a bit of a mystery aspect still. Because,
yeah, but that movie has Joey Pants, bro. So that's something that this movie does not have.
Unfortunately, or Guy Pearce. And that's unfortunate, bro. That's two alphas, bro.
That's right.
Maybe someday they'll work with Tarantino, bro. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. I never had a problem
with Star Trek. That's gonna be our new line when we want guys to work with Tarantino. Put them in Star Trek.
We might as well, bro. I really want that movie to get made, bro. Real bad. So anyway, so no, the story begins with Jules and Vincent going to retrieving the briefcase, but we can start with the Honey Bunny scene. So this dialogue between, Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer, right? It seems.
Well, let me cut you off there.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's talk about the overall themes of the film, because that's something we touched upon in the retro, the Tarantino retro. The overall themes in the film is this idea that people want to change. Is this idea?
Yes.
This redemption quality, and we
the
start
idea
here
that life throws you clues and hints, and
that's right.
Life tells you that you need to change. And some people succeed at it and some don't. And the beautiful thing about this film, I just want to say, what makes this such a great classic of a movie is that pretty much every single main character has a form of change, including the robbers at the beginning of the movie. Including Yolanda and did they ever give away what Tim Roth's real name is in this movie?
Yeah, well, no, he's just known as
Ringo.
Because
Yeah,
that's what Jules calls him. That's not his name.
Because he's British, and Ringo was the Beatle. But the point is, huh?
Well, that's one thing we gotta say about Tarantino dialogue is that, again, you go through all his films, they are inspired by a lot of films, and not only films, they're inspired by a lot of fucking B-movie titles and books and TV shows that you probably not gonna get. Like, for example, when Buddy, who's played by Steve Buscemi, he's asking about how they want their burger. Do you want it like Amos and Andy or like Martin and Lewis?
I love it, chocolate or vanilla.
Yeah, so but who would get that? Like you really have to know what the fuck he's talking about. He's like Martin and Lewis or Amos and Andy, and it's just so wacky.
Brought to a crisp. I'll have the Doerbergy burger, bloody. Do you got a steak here?
And that's the other thing. And then like when Jules calls a pumpkin Ringo, like you said, it's because of Ringo Starr because he's British. Like, see, all these things are so awesome because you gotta connect all that, and that in itself is comedy, because Tarantino has said that this is a dark comedy. Make no mistake about it.
All his movies are really.
Exactly. So and then like when the wolf tells Vincent to stop jingling and jangling, that's
Lash
like a cowboy
LaRue, bro. He's not talking about the WCW jabroni either.
Yeah.
How about you, Lash LaRue? Can you stop his person from jingling and jangling? He has so much charisma, bro.
And then when Lance is talking about the Pepsi fucking challenge, like that's some old school shit right there, bro.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, so that first scene, Pumpkin doesn't want to be in the life anymore. Because the whole thing about it, he's describing how, like, if they go shoot up a gas station or whatever, he's gonna have some heroes there. He's like, you'll get shot sticking up one of them.
Which to me was kind of like very similar to the dialogue of Reservoir Dogs with Harvey Keitel talking about how to hold up a bank, and they even talk about holding up a bank. So it's like it's almost like it's somewhat of a sequel, but not really. Like it's just a continuation of the themes from that film.
Yeah, and then Reservoir Dogs tells him, "What about if you find a Charlie Bronson in there? Well, you take your nipple, you take the butt of your gun, and you hit him right on the nose with it."
Yep.
A Charlie
cut
Bronson,
off one of his fingers. The little one. Let's have a taco.
So Ringo doesn't want to do it anymore, and then Yolanda's like, "Well, why don't we do it right here?" Like, and it's funny because that dialogue between both of them, like, she convinces him, and he's like, all right, well, let's do it, fuck it, let's do it. And they take off.
And that goes back real quick. That goes back to Adam and Eve. See, this movie's even if you're not religious, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of inspiration here from the Bible, not just with the stuff with God, but Eve was the one that convinced Adam to commit the sin. It's very similar, bro. I know you picked up on that one.
No, it is, and these are all. One thing about Quentin Tarantino is that every single shot in all his films, not just this one, they all have a purpose. They're all there to tell you a complete story, and that's another good point that you brought up. And I also love how between Honey Bunny and Pumpkin, the distribution of power is equal. Like, I love that because usually you tend to see the guy being the leader or whatever. Not in this situation. In this situation, Honey Bunny has some power, and she convinces him to rob the diner. But she also respects a Pumpkin. She respects him enough to, like, value his opinion. And so they go and they do it.
And Tarantino's done this with Natural Born Killers as well as a True Romance. He's done like the male-female kind of you know,
dynamic,
the criminals, the male female criminals, Mickey and Mallory,
right. And then so then we start with the classic everybody get your hands up, I'm gonna execute every last one of you, and then boom, you hit fucking Miserello, which became a fucking classic. That intro, everybody knows about that intro, bro. And the thing about that intro that's wacky, first of all, it's very comical, which was his point, because it's based on the Pulp novels. The font, the way the fucking credits roll, all that shit.
Goosebumps right now thinking about it, bro. What a great fucking movie.
Yes, you see the music and you get excited. Now think about this, folks, because when this movie came out, I was 13 years old. When you're a teenager, you're very susceptible to this shit. I watched this shit the first time I saw it, I was confused. I don't know what the fuck was going on. But what captivated me, what kept me intrigued the whole time was the dialogue and how cool. Yeah. That's why I feel this movie's timeless. Yeah. Because these characters don't age. Like, these characters are cool in '93, and they're still cool here in 2019.
They're never now than they were back then in some ways. Nobody's like this anymore. Look at the way look at Cliff. That's why I love Cliff so much in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's like, that's a timeless character. Yeah, he existed in '69.
That's my favorite line was, "Fix it."
Yeah, fix it. He punched him. But I mean, I remember watching the Siskel and Ebert review for this film, and I remember they talked a lot about the dialogue and how what I loved about the movie and what they love, because I don't agree with everything they say, but they are who they are for a reason, is the dialogue between the characters might seem like it's irrelevant to the plot, and in some ways it is. Discussing what a quarter pounder with cheese is in Europe is not relevant to them getting a briefcase back. But what it does is two things. Number one, it's entertaining banter that can be somewhat comedic. And number two, it makes the characters more likable. Because the thing about Tarantino movies that he's been a master at, he's not the only one, but he's very good at it, is these people in these movies are not good people. Most of his movies, let's be real, the main characters are bad people. Let's keep it 100%, all right? Django might have been huh?
I mean, even maybe Cliff is an exception, but that's maybe because we get little sprinkles.
He might have killed his wife, but so, Django was a good guy, and there's a few there's a few other ones, but and Pam Grier I think also was,
and Calvin Candy.
Oh come on, bro, Candy, welcome to Candyland, but
and Big Daddy. My favorite character.
He is a good guy. But
thank you, Big Daddy.
Oh, Dr. King was also a good guy. But most of these people are like Hateful Eight. Everybody in that everybody's
but that was the point.
Yeah, they're hateful. But and so in this movie you have these two gangsters who are about to essentially murder a couple of what looks like to be soft ass white dudes. And yet you have this conversation about hash bars in Amsterdam and what they call a quarter pounder with cheese. And number one, we as fat America instantly recognizes what they're talking about, number one. Number two, some people didn't even know about the metric system being a thing over there. So if you don't even know like the metric system, what is a fucking quarter pounder with cheese called? Like things like that, but it makes them human because even though these guys are mobsters, they're still having a regular conversation that people would have no matter what you do for a living.
And that humanizes them and that connects them to the audience. Great point.
And then when they open up the trunk and they're like, we should have got shotguns for this type of deal. And then they're like, oh, how many are up there? 4, including our guy? Maybe 5 or whatever. And then he's like,
got fucking
shotguns. Like, when you're them, you can kind of relate. Like, all right. And the thing is, you don't know if they're baby faces or heels right away because they could be cops for all we know. It's not until we get to the actual talk of Marcellus Wallace's wife, Tony Rocky Horror, the foot massage, all these different things that, that tell us, okay, they're working for a mobster. This guy's ruthless. They can't be good people. But at the same time, the banter is so entertaining. They're talking about a guy getting thrown off a building over a foot massage. Like, and and what they're doing already in the movie early is they're establishing the character of Marcellus, who will become the villain for the Bruce Willis arc later. But they're establishing it early. We don't even see him until later on in the movie.
Brother, what I like there's so many things to love about this particular scene. First of all, keep in mind that banter about Tony Rocky Horror. Another thing about that, the whole point of that is that was banter amongst boys. That was gossip. Yes. Because later on, Mia's like, that didn't even really happen.
And it was built up to that date scene, too. Also, one more quick thing. I'm going to get film nerdy with you right now, bro. I'm going to pop you. I love when they walk off in the hallway, how the camera moves but doesn't zoom in on them. They lets them walk back and then walk back. You know what I'm talking about? When they walk.
Yeah. And they walk. It eavesdrops. It's very like a voyeuristic shot.
Yeah, he's really good at that, dude. That is a Tarantino staple. We saw that a lot. He doesn't just cut to because one thing that a lot of directors do, bro, including George Lucas, is they have that 2-camera back and forth thing. What do you call it when you have like 2 characters talking, the camera's going back and forth on them?
It's just like a master shot.
Like the 2 shots, like a 2-shot camera, like they cut to like De Niro and Pacino, bro. They cut to him, they cut back, they cut to him. Here, he's just slowly eavesdropping, and they're far away. You can still hear the conversation, but it feels more like a documentary, even though it's not played up like one at all. So continue your point.
And it also shows there's a lot of symbolism because it shows that their main priority is what's happening where the camera's at. But it's not time yet, so they leave, but the camera stays there to tell the audience this is what they're here to do, and this is where we're going to stay, and let them come back after the 5 minutes are up or whatever. And then they come back, and then they knock with their head Another Tarantino staple is he likes to shoot people from the back of their heads, and he does that here.
Yeah, third-person perspective.
But going back to the banter in the car, one of the things that I like about it is that first of all, there's such a great fluidity to that banter because it doesn't seem forced at all. Like, for example, when they're talking about Royale with cheese, right? He tells them they don't have the metric. I don't know what the fuck the metric is to miss. And then Vincent is like, what do they call the Big Mac? Oh, the Big Mac's the Big Mac. What do they call Whopper?
He goes, they call it Le Big Mac. He goes, Le Big Mac.
He popped for that, bro.
And then he goes, I don't know, I didn't go to Burger King.
but if you're talking with your boys, that's the stupid shit that you would ask.
No, it's true. And then you know what they dip the fries in? Mayonnaise. And then he's all grossed out. I like fries with mayonnaise, bro.
God damn. That's what he said.
I like fries. Yeah, man, they fucking drown them in this shit.
I see them do it, man.
It's almost like they're committing a crime. Like, these guys are about to murder somebody, and they're disgusted by the fact that somebody has fries with mayonnaise, bro. I love it.
And so, yeah, they start walking, they get in.
And I love how he goes, let's get into character. That's a great, that is a great fucking line, bro.
And that's what they talk about the difference between eating pussy and giving a foot massage.
Because the whole Tarantino's both the same thing to Tarantino, bro.
But the thing is, because the whole idea there is that Vincent doesn't know how far is too far when he goes on his date with Mia. Like, he doesn't know if a foot massage and then that's when Jules is like, wait a minute.
Like when he goes, what do you do, fuck her? No, that doesn't that bad. And then he goes, take care of her. He's like, take care of her? He does the gun sign. Like, he thinks...
Yeah, because they're hitmen.
Yeah, he thinks that Marcellus wants him to kill Uma Thurman for a second there, bro. That's great.
Take care of her? Nah, man. Just take her off and show her a good time. And then he's like, wait a minute. There's a difference between sticking your tongue in when he says
the holiest of holes, bro.
and giving a bitch a foot massage.
And then he checkmates him when he goes, would you give a man a foot massage? Fuck you. That's classic, bro. He checkmated him with that, bro. Fuck you.
I got my technique down and everything. I don't be tickling or nothing.
I love it, bro. That's his ego talking right there. That's Jules' ego talking.
So then this is gonna be we are gonna go long.
I told you. Every scene can be. This is what I wanted, though, bro. I don't care if we're up till 5 in. This is what I wanted.
So
this might be a 3-part episode.
No, this ain't fucking Misawa's death, bro. As the observer.
Well, at least it's better than being Chavo Senior's death, where we don't cover it at all.
So then they walk into the apartment where they have the 3 guys. They have Flock of Seagulls. They have
which again, if you don't know about Flock of Seagulls, you won't get that. So they have Brett, and then they have I keep forgetting the guy's name from SNL, bro.
No, enough. It's from Mad TV.
Mad TV. I'm an idiot.
Phil Lamar.
Phil Lamar. I love that guy, bro.
And he's all fucking scared. So this is where it gets interesting because they're there and this is where you're gonna have to help me out because I've seen this movie 1,000 times and I still don't really know their motivation because Marcellus sold that briefcase to them. Why does he? What exactly did they do to piss him off? Did they steal the briefcase?
I don't remember exactly what it was. I always thought that they stole the briefcase. He just, you try to fuck him like a bitch. I'm guessing he was trying to sell that briefcase. Now, Do you want to get into the different fan theories about what that briefcase is? This has been going on for 25 years as to what's in that briefcase.
Well, first of all, there's nothing in the briefcase, all right? Because it's a MacGuffin. It doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, Tarantino said it could be whatever you want it to be, but there's different fan theories. Like, for example, there's one where they say it's like what the pearls from Natural Born Killers or whatever.
Oh, from Reservoir
Dogs, yeah. Somebody else said that it's Marcellus Wallace's soul, and the reason why he has a Band-Aid in the back of his neck, that's where his soul left him. Like,
and that they're angels, and then Vince is a fallen angel, and then...
That's brilliant, bro.
But it's also bullshit.
It is. I mean, but of course it could just be like actual gold, because when they open the briefcase up, the golden light shines on them, and they always mark out over it. So it could. Actually,
and remember, the briefcase combination is 666.
That's what I'm saying, bro. So the idea of Marcellus being the devil, I mean,
but it's also
Butch made a deal with the devil, bro.
But it's also this new wave indie filmmaking style that was big at the time, where you kind of introduce all this mindfuck shit that doesn't really even matter. Because the point of the briefcase
is just... Tarantino likes to do this kind of shit where he doesn't give you all the answers.
Because the point of the briefcase is just to motivate the characters to move forward with the plot. That's literally the whole point of the briefcase. So this is very interesting, because this is where we see, and this is Samuel L. Jackson's great acting. He comes in there very jovial, joking around, but there is a scene where Flock of Seagulls interrupts him, and he goes, "I didn't ask you a goddamn thing."
Yeah.
Bro, his face changes, and it goes from being a comedic guy to being fucking serious. Like, he is so serious, and what I like about that is that he's still talking to Brad, but he's mad dogging the shit out of fucking Flock of Seagulls. Like, he's just mad dogging the shit out of him. And that's when Vincent goes in, and they tell him where the briefcase is at, and he grabs it. Yeah. And then he's like, "We happy?" "Yeah, we happy." And then this is where you get the famous quote from the Bible, which is not really
the correct quote, but it works for the movie.
And it doesn't only work for the movie; it actually is connected to Jules's arc, because that is Jules. Essentially, that passage is the choice that Jules has to come up with at the end of the movie, and he decides to go good instead of being the shepherd or whatever. Like, he makes sense out of that passage at the end of the movie.
You're the weak. Yeah, I love that scene. But no, you're right. And then also in that scene as well, we have that, "Look at the big braid on Brad." Even though people think he says Brad, but he says Brett. He just says it very, like, sarcastically, Now, yeah, I love how he's fucking with him, using what he just learned from Jules about the metric system, but he could have just killed him, and he chose not to. And it's one of those things where
it's all mental war games. It's like he's fucking with them psychologically,
which didn't make any sense. He should just kill them, but
they're having a good time. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to.
And also, one of their guys is in there as a spy or whatever the case is, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, the Jerry Seinfeld looking motherfucker.
No, not him. He's not a spy. He's the guy who was hiding in the other room.
Oh, no, you're talking about Phil Lamar, Marvin.
Yeah, Marvin was their guy. But, yeah, Jerry Seinfeld was the guy in the room with the damn hand cannon. That gun was bigger than him.
So then the shit gets serious when he kills Flock of Seagulls. He just shoots him dead. He just
shoots him, yeah.
And it's like, "Oh, did I ruin your concentration?" And, of course, we get the, is he a bitch?
Yeah.
And say bitch one more time. And then
why are you trying to fuck him like a bitch? The only one that can fuck him is Mrs. Wallace. Or whatever the fuck he says.
But what I like about this scene, bro, is that when he starts saying the passage, if you look in the background, Vincent Vega already knows what's about to happen.
Yeah, he pulls the gun out.
He puts so that answers our question. They have worked together before.
No, they have worked together before. The question we had is, how long have they worked together? That's what we don't know. But obviously, it had to have been a few months, right? I mean,
well, no, because Vincent was in Amsterdam for 3 years. He says so. He was gone for a while.
Yeah, but they had to have worked. Okay, then they worked together before the 3-year absence. Then.
So eventually, so what that tells us is that every time fucking Jules kills somebody, he drops down that passage before he takes them out.
Well, he says that himself, though. He says it himself in the movie. That's his passage. But I think what might have happened is, Vince went to Europe, and then Jimmy Dimmick became his partner for a while. That could be what happened as well.
Yeah, because Jimmy and Vince don't know each other. They met each other for the first
time.
And
we don't know how long he was married to Bonnie.
Well, we're gonna get there, bro.
Who's the black woman, by the way. So Tarantino already had his fetishes in line back then.
So pretty much they execute fucking Brett, And in a great fucking another classic angle, bro, when they show fucking Vincent Vega looking all alpha with the cigarette kind of dangling down, and he just blasting the shit out of him.
That's a classic angle, bro. And then that's the end of that story.
For now, yeah.
That's true.
So then they cut to Butch, right, when Marcellus is talking about the pride lecture.
I love that line, bro. You might feel a slight sting. That's pride fucking with you.
With that song, bro. Fucking what's his name? What's his who fucking sings that song?
Fifth, my ass goes down. Say
so in love with you.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, I love that song. What a great fucking soundtrack. So anyways, and then that's where we start. Okay, so continue. You were saying you were the one talking.
So at that point, we see fucking fuck the performances here are all amazing, because Butch hasn't said one fucking word of dialogue, but just Tarantino starts in his face and he's zooming out, and you see a defeated man. You see a man with low self-esteem. You see a man who doesn't believe in himself. He's kind of defeated in life, and he's just kind of there listening. He's listening to fucking Marcellus go on, and Marcellus knows this. But he's just, he for lack of a better term, he's fucking with him. And he's talking about pride, because what it is that Marcellus ended up fixing a fight, and he needs Butch to go down in the fifth round.
He can win the gambling.
So he can win the
gambling money, yeah. And of course, and Butch, like any great heel / babyface, he backstabs him and kills the fucking guy. Not only does he win the fight, but he kills the fucking guy.
Right.
But is this where we get I'm Not Your Friend Palooka? Is that here?
Yeah, well, that's later.
I thought that was here. Okay.
No, it is here, but it's later in the scene. Later after.
Okay.
After Marcellus finishes the dialogue, but I love this dialogue because it is true, bro. Like whenever we want to do something, there's pride fucking with us. You know, like in the back of our head, we always gotta do what we gotta do because our ego gets in the way, and then we do the opposite, and we end up getting into more trouble. So pretty much that's what Marcellus is telling Butch not to do.
I wonder if what was in the briefcase is the money that he used to bet on Butch. Could that be possible?
I don't think so, because then it wouldn't have been shiny. It doesn't matter, bro. Like, there's no answer to that.
No, it doesn't matter, but people are gonna talk about that for years.
So Butch takes the money, and then he goes over. Then we have Paul Calderon, where he opens the door. He's like, "My man, Vincent, my man from Inglewood," you know. And then that's when Vincent and Jules come in, and they're dressed like fucking white. You know, fucking suburban guys,
and
you
they
know.
deliver the briefcase, but we don't know why they are.
Yeah,
dressed
you're wondering
like
what the fuck happened. They just got the briefcase. What happened that now they're dressed like that?
It's great, bro. That's what we have. I'm Not Your Friend Palooka.
And yeah, because Jules goes to Jules is just laughing about everything that they just went through, which we don't know about yet because we haven't seen it. So he's like, I gotta take the piss, and he just walks off. And then Butch shows up, pack of Red Apples. Of course, Red Apples became the staple cigarettes for all his universe. And then he's like, I'm Not Your Friend Palooka. And I always pop with that because what a fucking asshole, bro. Like Butch didn't do anything to this guy, and he's already being aggressive with him.
He doesn't like him, bro. Yeah. Would you say punchy?
What'd you say, punchy? What a dick, bro.
Yeah, Vince was a dick, bro.
But then again, keep in mind they just went through some fucking crazy ass morning, so he's not in a good mood.
And I love how shit always gets bad when Vince goes to the bathroom. That's a recurring theme in the movie. He goes to the bathroom, Mia finds the heroin. He goes to the bathroom, comes out and gets shot. Goes to the bathroom, and then he comes out and Jules is dealing with fucking Ringo and his chick. So there's always something when he goes to the bathroom, bro. I gotta take a piss. And now, your theory is that Butch is the one that keyed up his car?
I think, yeah, it's been confirmed by Tarantino.
Oh, he confirmed it.
Yeah, so after this scene, he comes out and he keys his car, bro.
Which we did not see on screen. We just hear him talking about later on when he's complaining to Eric Stoltz. I love that scene, too, because as a man and as a car owner, anybody can relate to that shit, especially when he goes, oh, I love it. When he goes, yeah, man, I wish I had seen, he goes, I would have given up. I would have let him key it just for me to be there to see him. You don't do that. It's against the rules. I love that shit, bro. It's against the rules. You don't fuck with other man's automobile.
And he's right. He's right.
No, he's right. He's right. You don't do that. So Butch ain't a good guy either, bro. They're all bad people in this fucking thing.
But what the fuck? Butch is like, I didn't do nothing to this guy. Fuck him. I'm keying his car. So I don't blame Butch, bro.
Yeah, there was no point really. So Lance is the name of his drug dealer, and I love the whole scene, bro. Just
Well, it starts with Judy and Trudy who are getting high.
Yeah, they're talking about piercings or some shit.
Yeah, no. So it's funny because so they established that Judy and Trudy are talking, and then Judy's like, I got like 10 piercings, one in my nose, one in my ears, 2 in my mouth, 1 in my clit.
Yeah.
And then they show fucking then they zoom out and Vincent's just there like
No, they don't zoom out. No. I remember this vividly. He goes, "Excuse me." Then they cut to a close up of John Travolta. But why would you get a stud on your tongue? He says it just like that, bro. And then she's like something about fellatio or something, dick sucking basically.
Yeah. And it's so funny because the way he introduces Vincent in this scene is just so comical, you know, because think about it. He's been kicking it there, listening to these bitches, bro.
Waiting for his heroin.
So that's when our boy lands, bro.
And then later on he goes, "Is that the one with all shit on her face?" "No, that's Judy.
That's my wife."
"That's my wife."
Yeah, because Lance wants Vincent to fuck Trudy. He's like, "What do you think of Trudy? You want to say?" It's like, "Is that the one with all the shit on her face?" No, that's Judy. That's my wife. Now, here's the thing about Lance, bro, and this is what I pop.
What a great character, bro.
Anybody that has ever dealt with a drug dealer in their life in the hood knows exactly how they dress.
And it's just like this.
It's just
and
literally
they
like
talk
Lance.
just like this. And because he says the N-word a lot. And I know, I knew a couple of guys like this who had black friends. See, remember, we talked about this, the whole Cuban Negron thing, right? I love when there's a white guy who has black friends and throws the N-word around like nothing, bro. Which, again, Jimmy Dimmick does it later in the movie, right in front of fucking Sam Jackson. So, that's like a ghetto type of thing. It's like a very underworld kind of... You can't do that anymore anyways. This is 94.
I'm sure these guys are still doing that in real life, though.
Oh, I know that. But yeah, you're right. But yeah.
So, I was reading some of the trivia here, and I believe that this is also a combination of like Drexel Spivey, right? Like he wanted it to be our boyfriend. Why do you pop at that?
Because you know why, bro. Do I have to explain to you why I pop at Drexel Spivey? Remember, Gary Oldman is my favorite actor, right? Of all time, he's my favorite actor, bro.
I thought Jake Gyllenhaal was after Spider-Man.
No, he's getting up there though. He's on his way, bro. I forgave him for his sins, you know, however many years ago that was. I forgive him for that, bro, because he delivered, bro.
Okay, so to go check out my beer there.
No, I know. So what happens is he sells him the heroin, and you're wondering why are they doing this scene? Why are they? Because this is gonna have a big this heroin. Yeah, this mistake that Lance, not really a mistake because he wanted to sell it to him, but the whole thing is Lance selling the weed, the heroin actually somewhat backfires on both of them later on because Lance gets dragged into this whole thing without it really being his issue.
And I love how he's watching cartoons. Wow, they got the drug dealer parts. I knew a lot of guys like this.
I started Quentin Tarantino.
He's just watching cartoons because that is his life. His life is literally just to hang out all day at his house and just wait for customers. That is his life. Yeah. So he knows he never has to dress. He just wears boxers, those penny loafers. You know, he does that gimmick.
And he's got good shit too, apparently.
He does that gimmick. He's not from Inglewood. He does that gimmick where these drug dealers, where they're so lazy, where they don't pull up their penny loafers, they just step at the bottom portion of it, bro, and that's how they walk around.
I've done that I don't know how many times, bro. And I'm not a drug dealer.
So this is a great scene because it also shows that Vincent and Jules are fucking loaded. Because Vincent pops out this big fucking wad of cash.
Well, they're killers, bro. You would think that. I mean, how much do you think the hit on Brett and Flock of Seagulls was, bro? Is that like a $75,000 deal right there?
Yeah, but Jules is carrying around the money. He hadn't gotten paid yet, and he pops out like $2,000 out of his bad motherfucker.
Well, I know. But that's what I'm saying. Like, these guys have money. That wasn't their first kill. You know?
And then fucking, as they're talking about the car, Vincent goes into his trench coat and he pops out a big... Brother, this stack is so huge that the rubber band had to go around 3 times, bro. And then he fucking unzips it and then he just fucking pays them. Now, one of the things that Lance does, bro, very carny move. He makes them believe that he's going to give him something out of his own stash. But as we all know, drug dealers never hit out of their own stash. But he makes them believe that he's special when you know that Lance has used that line in every single fucking customer.
Of course, bro. It's Don West line, bro. You got that from Don West.
So the thing was, he sets out the different heroines with different potency levels, right? He's got the regular one, he's got the medium one, and then he's got the fucking madman. And there's Vincent just looking at it, and then he tells him, "This one's so popular, I ran out, but I'm gonna give you some of my own stash." And then so he's like, he does it all right, and I pop, bro, because Lance pops out the little weight scale. This guy's a businessman, bro. Yeah. He even has a little weight scale, and he throws a little spoon gimmick, and then he tells him, "I'm out of baggies. Are balloons okay?"
Little baggies, bro.
This motherfucker's such in demand that he ran out of baggies, but he's gonna give him the balloon gimmick, and then Vincent tells him, "Could I shoot up here?" "Of course. Mi casa es su casa." What a carny, bro. I love that.
And then we have that awesome scene where he's in the car and they play that fucking ring. Yeah, I love that scene, bro. The way it's all dark, you see like the wind blowing. I love it, bro.
It's very 50s. It's a great scene.
It's just very stylistic, bro. The movie has so much style too. This movie is like on that walking that razor's edge, as Stone Cold would say, between being like an art house movie and like a traditional like commercial gangster movie. He's able to walk that line really well. So he goes to meet Mia Wallace, right? And I believe this is the scene that was cut from the film where she asks him if he's an Elvis man or a Beatles man because you can only be one, and that's so true. There is truth to that. You can't be a fan of both and love both equally. I'm a Beatles person.
Not with a passion. Now you can love both, but you're gonna be passionate about either one. I'm a Beatles guy.
I'm a Beatles guy as well. Yeah. Are you an Elvis man or a Beatles man? Elvis.
But I like Fat Elvis though. I'm a huge fan of the Fat Elvis era. I'm not a big fan of the young Elvis.
And you hate fat people, so.
I don't.
The dietarily challenged. So I love the scene because this is when they play Son of a Preacher Man. Which was so well done because it's basically like Son of a Preacher Man is a very innocent song, and they're kind of trying to imply that Mia Wallace is kind of an innocent person, but she's really not. Even though she seems to be a lot less crazy than like out of all the characters in this movie, her and like actually the women really except for Amanda Plummer, all the women seem to be like more. Like less crazy, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But so anyways.
So this is also the scene where we get that famous meme of John Travolta being lost and look like you see that meme on the internet all the time now.
Right.
And people
it's everywhere. Shit. Yeah, that GIF. And I like how she's talking to him.
GIF,
she's talking to him with that gimmick, that talking gimmick. I have one of those, by the way, where you talk talking to it and you can hear you out front.
So for the next 30 to 40 minutes, it officially becomes the John Travolta show. And
it's
this
his
motherfucker,
story, bro.
He fucking did a great job, bro, because he played. I don't even know this motherfucker. Maybe he did heroin as a shoot. I don't know, but he does
as a shoot. That was a good pun.
He does such a great job of like just being high the whole time. When they first go into Jack Rabbit's limbs, like he's just freaking out at what he's seeing. Like, what the fuck? Where are we at? And he's walking and he's pointing and he's like, what the fuck? Because Tarantino does that dolly shot where he's following both of them as they're going to their car, and you see Vincent just so lost, so amazed, and just so happy all at the same time. And he expresses all those three things like beautifully, bro. And same thing here. When she starts talking to him with the microphone gimmick, first of all, he gets scared because he don't know where the fuck it's coming from because he's high. He's like, what the fuck? He's looking around. And then he looks at the button to talk back and he presses it. But the way he presses it is so like, he does it so carefully. This is all things that he's not used to. And the delivery is so great.
Yep. No, I agree. And then they go to dinner, and we have that "Don't Be a Square" scene, which is basically Tarantino making fun of other movies, because that's a total 50s thing. Because they go to Jack Rabbit Slim's, which is a throwback 50s diner. And by the way, I got the DVD that comes with the menu, too, by the way.
No, but first he does a line that I've used so many times when I hit up my friends and tell them I'll be there soon. She tells them, I'll be there in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. And I've used that line since I first heard it, and I've used it to this very day.
Yep. She has a lot of charisma in this movie. So they go to Jack Rabbit Slim's, and that's when we have the scene we already talked about with, the $5 milkshake. They put bourbon in it. That's a classic.
But this don't understate this scene.
Well,
bro.
I
This
just
scene,
don't know what else to say. It's a great scene. The way it's shot, the set piece is. Go ahead, go for it. You go for it.
But the banter is fucking awesome because it's connecting them as people. Both of them are establishing a relationship, not so much a sexual relationship, but there's a mutual respect factor that comes into play later on. Because remember, she doesn't rat him out, but I guess she doesn't rat him out because she would also be in trouble, as she states later on. But at the same time, I love some of that small talk, because what Tarantino does is that he brings out all the cliches that you would feel if you were in that situation. Like when she says, "Don't you hate that silence?"
No, it's
and
don't
then,
you just love uncomfortable. No, don't you hate
don't,
uncomfortable silences? And he's like, "Why do we feel it's necessary to talk bullshit in order to be, comfortable?"
That's right. And then they talk about how, like, that you're comfortable with someone the moment that you don't say anything around them and everything's okay. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. That's not what they say,
yeah,
but
that's what she's saying.
That's, and I love that line because it's so fucking true. Like, that you're somebody's legitimate friend or that you're in a good relationship when you could just be kicking back in the same room with them and you don't feel that tension of conversation. You don't feel like you have to say anything. And that's the ultimate comfort. That's when you know that you've connected with someone at a deeper level than just knowing someone, casually.
And also at the same time, they're building up some sexual tension between the two. Because remember, there's a scene later on where he talks about temptation and all that, which we discussed in that podcast.
Well, no, one of the good banter that goes to your point is when they start flirting, like when he's all fucked up, bro, and he's trying to roll that cigarette. Because this motherfucker's old school, bro. He don't buy packs. He just buys the gimmick where you buy the tobacco.
Who does that, bro?
I still know a few guys that do that because it's cheaper.
Is it really?
So you put the tobacco on the roll on the rollie, and then you roll it up, and then she tells him, "You want to roll me up one of those cowboy?"
I thought it was weed the whole time. Actually, it's crazy.
It could be. Who knows? And then he's like, "You could have mine, cowgirl." I love it. It's just so there's a lot of sweetness to that scene, bro. It's just in the delivery. They just have a lot of John Travolta and Uma Thurman have a lot of chemistry.
I love how he goes into this very scared because he heard about Tony Rocky Horror, but yet, as I said, she eases him. But when they have that conversation, because remember, he does the thing that we all do sometimes, where you want to talk to somebody about something, but you don't really want to outwardly say it, so he kind of sneaks his way in there, like manipulates his way into the conversation to get an answer to make himself feel more at ease. And she does it. She's like, the only thing that, what did she say about the only thing that happened with me and Tony was his hand when I shook it. That's the only thing I ever touched.
Yeah, that's it.
Tony. Yeah. And so the whole story was bullshit. It's like, and then I like how she goes, they talk a lot, don't they? Who told you? They did. They talk a lot, don't they? The gossipers, bro. The gossipers.
That's right. The sewing circle.
It's like a little sewing circle, which I love. I've used that line in my life a lot, bro. Like a little sewing circle.
Good thing we're connected to a good sewing circle back in Campbell, California, bro. That's all I gotta say about that.
You're giving away too much right now, bro. You're giving away too many secrets. You're breaking kayfabe, bro. So, yeah. Bro.
So the thing.
So Steve Buscemi is here playing Buddy Holly
in a cameo. And here's the thing. Again, let's go back to what's said and not said. Anybody that's in the waiting profession, being waiter, waitresses, they're dealing with the public all fucking day. They don't have time for bullshit. I really have a lot of empathy for waiters and waitresses. Buddy Holly comes in, but it's an annoyed Buddy Holly.
And bro, I love how it's ironic compared to the guy. He's the same character who would not tip in the last movie. Like, I like how they did that here. He's now playing the waiter.
Yeah, but he don't got time for bullshit. He just reads out the menu, and then
Amos and Andy or Martin and Lewis, and then Burns and Chris, bloody as hell.
No, and then he's like, doesn't it have any Berman? No. But he's got that look like, don't give me this shit, dude. It does. Like, what do you want from me?
The $5 milkshake, that's $5. Is that milk and ice cream? You don't put bourbon in it? Nope. I want to know what a $5 milkshake tastes like. God damn it, the fucking good milkshake. I don't know if it was worth $5, but it's pretty fucking good. I love when he says that part, bro. And don't forget the dance sequence, which I think, what was the whole thing about the dance sequence was, I mean, it does feel like it was written for Travolta to dance, bro. I know that it wasn't according to Tarantino, but it does feel that way, you know?
That's another classic scene of the movie. Everybody knows that scene. That's one of the more classic scenes. But one thing I wanted to say was that this is also when she tells him about her being a failed actress and how she shot this pilot called Fox Horse 5,
right.
where at the end of every episode, one of them would say a joke, and that was the big gimmick of the show. And they only shot one episode because the pilot didn't get picked up. And and she has that one joke about ketchup, which she tells later when they're both all fucking beat up from what's gonna happen later on.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty cool. And again, we're looking at the bonding dialogue because they're bonding as people and they're having that chemistry.
And again, that leads to Travolta thinking that, because this is so realistic, bro. When you're talking to a girl, especially when you're younger. Now, I'm not saying that Travolta was like in his 20s, but when you're talking to a woman and she's being nice to you and she's kind of being the sexual chemistry there, and she's being open for you, as a man, it does cross your mind. Even though, again, you might not pursue it, you might not really care. As a man, I'm telling you, because I'm a man, it crosses your mind. And,
of course.
And it does cross his mind. And that's when we have that awesome scene later on that part mark out for. This is a test of one's loyalty, where he's talking to himself, bro. He's talking to himself, which I've done many times, where he's like, just it's fine. Go home, jack off, and just forget this whole night happened.
Yeah.
He's realizing that he's horny, bro, and that he's actually thinking about taking advantage of her. What about when she's like, oh, I'm going to go and powder my nose? And, of course, we all realized what that was.
I said, goddamn.
No.
But, but going back to the Fox Force fight thing, one of the great banter that pops me between Jules and Vincent is when Jules is telling Vincent what a pilot is. Because Jules is like, she did this movie Fox Force 5, and then Vincent's so ignorant because at this point Tarantino is talking to the audience that doesn't know what a pilot is, but he's using Vincent as the guide. So Vincent's the audience with us. We're like,
right.
So Vincent's like, how come I haven't seen the show? What's a pilot? He's like, what's a pilot? Well, you make this show, and then if the show gets picked up based on the popularity of that show, they make other shows. The first show's a pilot. And then some of them get picked up, some of them become nothing. So I like that little banter of how Jules has to explain to him what a pilot is.
Well, it's just like how earlier in the movie he explains to him about why it's not a quarter pounder with cheese, and then Jules says it to Brad. So it's the same thing. It's the same idea. So
yes.
What ends up happening is they go back to the house, and really he should just drop her off, but he makes the mistake of not dropping her off. He should have just dropped her off at the door, bro. He should have just done that.
What happens is that because they won the dance contest, so they're kind of both jazzed up about it. They got the trophy
I think they
and
were
everything.
Drinking too, right? Were they drinking? No, they were both high. He was on heroin. She was on coke.
Yes, and they were. I guess. Yeah, they never say they were drinking or not, but we should assume that they had a couple drinks.
Did they put bourbon in it?
And then they're so happy, they're dancing, and then Vince is like, I gotta take the piss. Well, that's a little too much information, but that's right, and then she points him to the restroom. But his delivery was awesome because he's got that little kid boyish kind of smile because he's kind of horny, but he can't do nothing, but he's also high, and they just want the dance contest, so he's happy about that. And he's like, I gotta take the piss. And he just walks out.
Yeah.
I love that scene, and that's where she finds Madman stashed in his coat, and then she thinks it's cocaine.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you snort heroin, I mean, you could straight up just die.
Well, what was happening here is that at this point it kind of became an 8-ball because that's what they call a cocaine with no, it's not an 8-ball. It's what do they call it? Because an 8-ball is just a big. Anyways, they have a name for it.
Yeah.
But it's when cocaine and heroin are mixed. So you get that, you go up and then you come down, which a lot of drug users
might
like.
Never come back is the problem though, especially
That's
for somebody
right.
as lightweight as her.
So she does it and then she overdoses. Great makeup effect, by the way, as she's kind of she's got her eyes rolled up in the back of her head and she's drooling and shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then you just hear Vincent in the background. Oh my God! No!
Fuck me! And then it cuts to the car. And, don't fucking die on me, Mia. He doesn't even care about her, bro. He just doesn't want to get killed by Marcellus. And I like how he pulls up right against the guy's house in the driveway, and he's like, "If you don't fucking help me right now, it's Marcellus Wallace's wife. We're gonna be a fucking grease spot." And he's like, "You're an accomplice in this. You have to help me." He basically tells him, "If you don't help me, we're all dead." He guilt trips him, bro. Lance doesn't even want. And he's like, prank caller.
No, okay. Well, first of all, let's slow it down here because this scene is probably my favorite scene in the entire movie, and I'm telling you why. Because you could tell there was a lot of ad-libbing done by the actors, bro, because the scene is so tense and the dialogue is so fast that there's no way all of it had to be in the page. It had to be these guys being able to kind of improvise a little bit. Right. So Vincent calls Jules, and first of all, Vincent has a cell phone, I think, which is weird in '93.
Got money, bro.
And so does Jules, because that's how he calls Jimmy Dimmick later on.
And how he calls Marcellus Wallace, who also has a cell phone.
So so he calls them, and then fucking Lance is watching cartoons, eating cornflakes, bro. Mm-hmm. He's just kicking back in his bed, just eating, and then it's just ringing and just building up. Remember, Tarantino's great with tension, just building up that tension, building up, and it's like, you just hear Judy in the background, pick up the fucking phone. And it's weird because they have separate beds. Anyways, which is wacky. Because she's already in bed too. Judy's in her own bed, and then Lance is in his bed eating cornflakes, watching cartoons. Right. And it's like, that's what I'm about to tell this asshole when I talk to him. So he picks up the phone, and then that's when he freaks out because Vince is saying, "I'm coming over," and he's like, "Crank caller." And then that's when he drives in and he brings her in. Yeah. But then at that point, it becomes chaos, bro, because Judy gets involved, and he's like, "Have you seen a little black book? What little black book? A black book? I ain't seen no black book."
And he's looking for it and shit. He's all freaking out.
And then he's like, "I need a magic marker. I don't got a magic
felt pen, a fucking black magic marker."
This is all great, bro.
And also, I think I read somewhere that the way that they did the scene where he stabs her with the needle through her breastplate or whatever, that could actually kill her. Like in real life, if you do that, if you stab somebody through the fucking chest into the heart like that, they'll die. So I mean, Tarantino's again playing with fantasy here.
I believe the actual adrenaline shots are on the thigh. I believe, because they got that gimmick where boom, you put it and then you come back and shit. But
yes, yeah, but right through the heart. That's very dangerous, but whatever. It's for a dramatic effect.
So they find the fucking magic marker, and then he puts a big fucking dot, and then Lance is like, "You give her the shot. I ain't give her the fucking shot. When I bring an old damn bitch into your house, then I'll give her the fucking shot. Right. I know you're gonna give her the fucking shot." That's right. And then he's reading the little booklet for the instructions. It's like, it says you stab her in the heart like this, and then he does the
breastplate. He's starting the breastplate. Yeah, right there.
And then Vince is like, "Man, I gotta stab her 3 times? No, just one time, just one." Because what happens is that
he does the 3 motion. Yeah.
Like, and then Vince is like, "Man, I gotta stab her 3 times. No, just one time, just to." And then Vince is like, "Well, what happens?" And then Lance is like, "I don't know, man. I've never done this before."
And they count to 3, bro. 1, 2.
And then they show everybody's face, and then Judy's like, she's like kind of marking out over that.
Yeah, she's like, cool. And then Mia Wallace wakes up, and the needle's still dangling from her chest too.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Ooh," and then Vincent's like, no, Lance is like, "Say something," and then the scene ends with Judy saying, "That was fucking trippy."
Yeah,
and that's where the scene.
and then she tells him the catch-up joke, and then I think what was the line that Travolta says when he walks away? He's like, "I think I'm gonna go home and die," or something like that.
I think I'm gonna go home and have a heart attack.
That's it. I think I'm gonna go home and have a heart attack.
Yeah, because that's where they establish. So she tells him the joke: Mama tomato, Papa tomato, and then the little kid tomato, and then when the little kid falls,
baby
it's a very
tomato,
dark.
Baby
it's
tomato.
It's a morbid joke when you think about it, bro. Because the baby tomato falls behind, Papa tomato goes up to him and steps on him and goes, "Catch up."
Yeah.
and then fucking Vincent, who's been through hell, just gives that charity laugh. You know?
He does the kiss where he kisses her goodbye.
That's another classic scene of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's where they kind of agree not to tell Marcellus about any of this shit, because both of them would be in dipshit if they both say anything.
And then we have the introduction of Captain Coons, bro. Another classic scene. Okay, so that is the end of part 1 of our Pulp Fiction retrospective. Part 2 is coming next week here on the Geekdom101 podcast. Remember, Apple Podcasts, Google Play. I think, the Play Store should have a Google Podcast, as well as geekdom101.libsyn.com. Don't forget to go there and subscribe to the show, and you'll get all the episodes as they come out. I thank you again for supporting us, and we'll see you next week on the second part of our Pulp Fiction retrospective. This is Geekdom Big D signing off.